What's up, guys? Dan here, and in this interview, we're joined by the infamous Cody Davis and Christian Osgood from Multifamily Strategy on YouTube. These guys are legends. They're young guys like me. I think Cody's 23. I think we're almost the same age. And Christian's a little bit older, but they have combined amassed over 120 units of real estate plus an entire resort in just 2 or 3 years. And as I look up to these guys, I've learned a lot from them. Honestly, from them, I was able to do one of my own seller finance deals, and also get a hold of some very high level investors in my area that have some multifamily. So hopefully, nurturing those relationships along so that I can follow in their footsteps and take over some of these big buildings. So with that, guys, let's get right into this interview with these guys, as I'm sure they're going to drop a lot of value in this interview.
Well, thanks for having us. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. So what got you guys into real estate investing? And, just long story short, like, how did you go so fast? I mean, I built up to, in just 2 or 3 years, about 14 units of rental real estate and stuff, and got a little bit different route with the flipping. But like, you guys have just, super quick, a ton of property you've amassed.
Yeah, I mean, it's all relative, right?
Right.
But we like to keep things simple, and because we keep things simple, even if it's complicated, we find a way to simplify it. We are able to go a little faster, and than the conventional route. So we simplified the game down to a couple things. You got to figure out, how do you buy it? How do you never lose it? And will it be fun? Because if it's not fun, you're probably going to quit. So the philosophy is, you figure out, how do I buy the real estate, which is just deal, debt, equity. Super simple. You figure out the deal that you want to buy. Then you figure out where you're getting the money for it, which comes in two forms, debt or equity. It could be a loan or it could be a cash partner. Okay. And once you figure out how to buy it, how do you never lose it? Long-term fixed rate debt or no debt, if you can write a check, and cash flow. And it just comes down to those few pieces. And we've used that ideology to buy every deal we've ever bought. We bought 38 plex like that, and quickly scaled. The 38 unit was the first deal we did together. So if you talk about scaling bigger, if you did the 38 plex, you'd 4x your portfolio today.
Yeah.
Right. So it's just looking a little bit bigger. Every deal we did is just, let's just see how many units we can get under one roof and figure out, how do we buy it? And then how do we never lose it?
For me, I started conventionally. So I got a duplex just conventionally. I got a second duplex that was 100% financed hard money, but refinanced it after about 3.5 months. Okay. So I funded the reno and essentially just did a burr. But on those projects, conventional, I had this goal of getting 30 units by 30. I'd worked at CoStar for 4 years, and I was like, oh shoot, I've spent all my money. So either I work another 7 years and buy a few more units, or I figured out something quicker, because I was just about to turn 29. That doesn't give you a ton of time before 30 to pick up another 26 units. So the concept came when Cody across the street, he owned the sixplex across the street from the duplex I renovated. He was 21, had 30 units, and it was all creatively financed. So the 38 plex, Cody actually came to me. He's like, I can't help you with 30, but I can help you with 42, because I'm looking at taking out this 38 plex. And so, yeah, to Cody's point, the fastest way to do it is just to buy bigger. It's not a whole lot different running 38 units than it is any of the 12 plexes that we run.
Yeah, quickest way to own 30 units is to buy a 30 plex.
Yep.
Right.
Simple math, but people need to hear that. It is you can scale bigger.
Yeah.
Well, I think, like, even myself, like I think it's kind of evaporated after seeing you guys, but just there's definitely some inhibition to taking on, a big bite if you maybe aren't mentally prepared or just don't have the experience or the capital to keep it going. Should something go on, like a large CapEx expense or something like that, I think that's probably what keeps most people from taking a big jump like that, is just the not being able to handle that mentally or financially. What kind of got you guys through that to where you just kept taking leaps and bounds and growing it so quickly?
Well, I look at all the really successful people, and when I'm talking success in this context in business, we're talking about money right now. Success in life is not money, but in business, it's a good way to keep score. And so all the people that were doing well in the real estate game, they had a bunch of money. And so most people say, well, I can't buy real estate because I don't have the money, but I'll challenge that and say, you'd have the money if you own the real estate. So let's figure out how to borrow our way to buy the real estate. Most people get stuck in the whole scaling piece, and they're limited by their ability to get debt that increases their global cash flow.
Right.
And so if you can keep borrowing indefinitely, great, but make sure that it cash flows, and then take all the cash flow once you build the portfolio and pay it all off. And once you're there, you're done. But I wouldn't use capital as a reason to not buy a deal, because all the people that own the deals have the money. Okay. So if power of association, if you just think about it, like, oh, if I associate myself with that, and I'm like, if I identify that as the truth, then if I own the real estate, there should be a point in time where I do have the money.
Mm-hmm. Right. That's true. So you just kind of got to wait it out.
Yeah. You got to float for periods of time, but you just have to solve the one problem in the beginning. How do I buy it? And how do I make sure that this cash flows on long-term debt? It's one thing to buy a cash flowing asset, but if your debt's only a year long, you're probably going to lose it.
Sure. Because generally you're not buying them you probably can't refi out of that deal necessarily. And
even if you could, it just adds stress where it doesn't need to be.
Mm-hmm. So I've got a question, this is a problem that's perplexed me is, have you ever bought anything seller finance that needed a large amount of rehab?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay. Bought a 38 plex, our very first deal together. The 38 plex, we've put probably $300,000 into it today.
Okay.
And we didn't do it all at once. We've done that in the last little bit.
There's still a lot more project to go. A lot.
Yeah.
Okay.
We could throw another $1 million at the project and we wouldn't be done. So instead of doing, we have a 4-phase business cycle. You build a portfolio, you stabilize it, you optimize it, and then you pay it off. And those are the 4 steps to building impenetrable wealth, like that you don't lose. And right now we're in the optimization phase. We could throw another $1 million at Reno, but instead of doing that, we're going to borrow $10.5 million to knock down one of the front buildings and build up.
Okay. Wow.
Now, some people are going to say, well, I don't have $10.5 million. Neither do we. We don't even have $1 million. But we'll find it, because when it's done, it's worth $20 million. So that's just the main thing is, like, we could throw so much money at some of these projects. To your question of Reno, absolutely. They need a lot of money into it.
Okay.
The first 12 plex I bought in Moses Lake, it did a $140,000 roof. 2 years after I bought it. So it needed a lot of money.
So how have you been able to stomach those, massive CapEx expenses? I don't know what your cash flow situation's like or how all these individual properties are performing, but $140 or $140,000 is still $140,000, anyway you slice it. So
like I mentioned earlier, your ability to acquire debt that allows you to increase your global cash flow determines if you're going to bottleneck or not. And so we are able to get the incomes up to where we have more cash flow. More cash flow allows us to take on new debt products, and we use that new debt to fix up all the assets. At that point, we are where we are stable. We get everything to its highest potential. So like we're talking about development right now, highest and best use for that land, we're borrowing to do that. And then when it's optimized, then we debt hammer, we pay everything off, and then it's bulletproof. And that's just the order of operations. But we have to get the income up, which is what we did, so that we could borrow more money to complete the projects, because we don't have the cash.
And to pull that off, you have to do the right math up front. We have to do our due diligence on the deal, and we have to go, okay, realistically, there's 2 pieces of analysis that you really need to do this. If you're doing a major CapEx piece and you're going to pull capital again down the road to do that, like we did for the roof, you go, okay, what are we doing day one? Are we cash flowing day one on conservative numbers? If we assume that we say vacancy is going to be a little bit more than we expect, the market's not going to perform as well as we're going to expect, but conservatively, it's going to do really well day one. We know it's going to cash flow. We lock that down. Done. When are we doing the roof, or when are we doing a major capital event, like a cashing out a partner? If we have a balloon coming up, what are we doing at that point? And do conservative math for what does the property look there? And if you know you have enough money to pull out with really conservative numbers, that's how we hit these goals. It's pretty easy. Where's it day one? And where is it at your next major event? If you do that, that's how we predict everything. And we have never had a property do worse than we originally mathed for.
Because just being very conservative on the front end. So I've got a situation. So we bought a house, seller finance, and 0% interest for 20 years. Okay, with a 10-year balloon, right? Just the formula. Payment is super cheap, obviously. The problem is that it probably needs about 50,000 renovations to get the house, to where it can be rented. Now we've put about 25,000 of our own money into it, and we'll have to continue putting our own money into it to get it finished. Because I found that it's difficult to get any kind of conventional. Even a lot of private lenders won't lend second lien on property behind a first position note. How would you guys handle tackling that, Reno? Because I don't want to have any money out of my pocket, and ideally, right? How would you go about that?
Yeah, I mean, there's debt or equity, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you can't find a debt product and you've asked all the locals,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you're going to fund a deal like that from some national group. So it's probably going to be a local lender or private lender. If they're not willing to go in second and they're not willing to do cash out in first, then you might have to either get another asset that you can borrow against, or you might have to do an equity partner where someone writes you a check. Let's say it's an LLC. Maybe they buy into 30% of the LLC. They give you $100,000 to do your reno, and you have a buyout agreement where instead of paying them interest, you have $120,000 buyout or $110,000 buyout. They make 10% on their money in a year,
Mm-hmm.
and you have the option to buy out their equity again.
Right, and pay them all back.
Yeah, and then you have 100% of your LLC again. So there are tax ramifications for that, of course, but it's not debt, it's equity at that point. But that could be a way that you get your deal done.
Okay. Yeah, that's really good. That's kind of what I figured we might have to do. Just, like you said, you don't really want to give up equity if you don't have to. But, if we can get the money and get it done, then we can just do more deals, right? So.
And you were talking about not putting more money into it. That's one thing that we never hesitate for. If we have the money, we put our own money in. Could you fund it without raising capital?
Yeah, I mean, we could finish it off. Mm-hmm.
Then do it.
That's what I would do. As opposed to taking on more debt, that's great. But
what's the money for?
Yeah, that's always my thing. We could have got a duplex 0 down, but
we just wrote a check.
Yeah, we need 40,000 down. So we're like, okay, well, let's just put the money down instead of raising capital. Now we just own it, and that piece is done.
Mm-hmm. So you would rather, on the front end of the deal, I know you want to pay everything off, and I after listening to you guys, I totally agree. But even on a deal, if you had the money, you would use it yourself instead of trying to take on more partners or more debt to get it done.
As opposed to what? What else would you do with the money?
Use it to buy another deal or another deal where you wouldn't be able to get a partner, perhaps. You got to stay bankable to an extent. I mean, obviously with the seller financing, maybe not as much, but it's a lot easier to get more partners with money.
It depends on where you're at in your cycle. We've identified there's 4 steps to this business game. Sure. Your build phase, stabilization phase, optimization, and then debt hammer. If you're still in the build phase, then yeah, you're not going to finish all your projects, but you're going to take the money and you're going to buy more cash flowing assets. Then you can use the extra new cash flows to start funding your renos. But if you've passed what your build phase is, meaning in the beginning you said I want to make 10 grand a month, and your real estate optimized and paid off can make 10 grand a month, don't buy. Do your projects, finish the projects. That's where we're at. 100 units in the resort. We optimize this thing and we'll have a $40 million plus portfolio, and then we pay it off. It's shooting off 6% a year. So we each get $1 million to a year, and then do your projects.
Okay.
Yeah, and I found, generally speaking, if the worry is raising capital for a future deal or for a deal you already have, the easiest time to raise capital is at acquisition. Just typically when you're closing the deal, hey, I have this opportunity. If you need an equity partner, that is a good time to come in and go, or as a debt partner, just this is the opportunity. This is what I'm going to do with it. That front end is where I like to line up a majority of the finances. We've had deals where it's just needed more capital. We've had a major capex. 38's a perfect example. 2 weeks in, we had the septic fail. It's like, okay, well, we're just going to have to put in money. We could raise more.
Sure.
But if we just write the check, then it's over. There's no more moving parts, and we'll cash flow it later. Let's just focus on take the asset, the resources we have, dump them into our deals. If we want to buy a new deal, we'll just go find the new resources and match it to that particular opportunity.
Right, because it'll probably be easier to do that than trying to get somebody to fix the problem.
Yep.
Necessarily.
That's my 2 cents. It doesn't mean it's right. Just that's how I would do it. If you have the money.
And the way we did it, every time we had money, we threw it into the real estate, and we'd buy a ton of real estate, 0 money down. The bulk of it, we bought 0 money down. Now we take all the dividends and we use the cash flows to fix it up. But we couldn't have done that if we had stayed small and we just tried to fix all our little projects with our own money, because we didn't have much money. So we had to grow to something worth owning. build a big enough business
that it can just pay it all this stuff off and fix all the problems with money down the road.
Right.
Okay. I've got a question about your guys' dynamic as partners. Because I have a 50-50 partner that we're building this business together, and I think our partnership's working really well, but I have other, friends and colleagues that I've seen try to do partnerships and not work out as well. What brought you guys together, and where did you guys see the value in each other? And then, from the deal that you guys worked on to now, how do you guys still, add value to the partnership, and where do you guys see it going?
I'll start with what brought us together. What brought us together was two guys with the same goal. I think a lot of people in all their relationships, friendships, marriages, business partnerships, you name it, people forget that you have to be heading the same direction to get to the same place.
Yeah.
And it's the simplest thing, but a lot of people don't have that upfront discussion of what are you actually trying to accomplish. So they'll have this business idea, and they'll just create a business, and the partnership falls apart because one person wants to go this way, the other one wants to go this way. We had a really simple goal when we started. We both wanted to get to 100 units. We decided that in Florida, actually at Grant Cardone's GrowthCon where we met. We had that same goal, and we kept that conversation going and defined it for what do we want this to look like? How do we want to get there? What is the process going to look like? And for us, there's times like up front, Cody provided way more value because he'd already figured out the creative financing. The acquisition is the biggest piece in getting started. So Cody set the foundation, more value there. As we get into more of the admin, I have a business degree. I've actually run teams. The employment, logistics, tax thing would be a huge distraction from Cody's skills. So we have complementary skills where 1 + 1 = 3. It's not just, two Codys would go so far and two Christians would go this far, but Christian and Cody would go way farther.
Two Codys would have bought a lot more real estate and would have lost it.
And two Christians would have probably made his way to like 10, maybe 15 units.
Which is still respectable. It's great.
And they would have been very optimized, but I would have been stressed out about every little piece and not focused on how do we actually scale this and optimize it. It would just be a very, very, very conservative approach. So you have two people going the same direction with complementary skills. That's the biggest thing as far as the setup and how partnerships come together that I think made us really successful. The other major piece is we just decided up front, Cody has more value up front. There's going to be a phase mostly right now where I'm a little bit more valuable. We're now moving optimization. The front half of optimization is going to be a ton of bank refis, creative finance, and relationships, which means we're shifting right back into Cody being more valuable. When you finish optimization, we get these all systemized again, it'll be me. We just said 50-50. We never negotiate it. We never talk about it.
And we don't compete. That's the big thing, because we both give 100% all the time. It's not 50-50, and people who view 50-50 partnerships as 50-50 lose.
Because it's never equal. There will never be a point where it's like, today I'm doing exactly as much work as Cody, and he's doing exactly what I am. Sometimes I'm on vacation.
And I don't go on vacation because I'm 23. But if we competed, and then we'd get upset with each other, and it would start to crumble. At the end of the day, we set out to hit a goal, and we hit the goal, and we made millions and millions of dollars just by doing what we said we wanted to do. So it would be unfair to try and retrade anything, even when Christian does more work than me, or when I'm doing the work and he's in Mexico. Like that would just be dumb to say that I should have 60% now. And that's just how we view our partnership. Yeah.
At the end of the day, millions of dollars in a very short partnership is good enough for me, no matter how we cut it.
Yep. And we throw it out another 10 years and it'll be hundreds of millions.
Yep. Sure. And you just keep going. And if you get greedy, partnership dies.
Then you lose all your momentum.
Yes. And that's really hard to recover from. I've had bad partnerships. Cody's had a way worse partnership. That you lose so much time, so much energy with bad partners. We early in our career, we had a partner where we went to their brokerage for a little while. Didn't work. Just disaster. They were a leech. They added no value. And it was a pain in the butt to separate.
And it sucked because I really liked them.
Yeah. It was just frustrating. The whole thing was it ended up being a disaster because we didn't follow the rules of where are we heading? Is everyone hitting their objectives? We compromised on that. Instantly regret that.
So one last question for you guys. Knowing what you guys know now, if you had to start over with nothing, and what steps would you take to rebuild what you've got or do it even better?
Yeah, I definitely know how to do it better. I would not start a property management company, but as far as what I would do, once I've established the goal, assuming this is me, I already have my goal, the ability to take care of my mom, which today, next year, I want to be able to buy, I guess this year, it's 2023.
Yes, it is.
Wow. I want to be able to buy her, there's $1 million condo in Ruston that I want to be able to buy her and just let her live there for free, and help her convert her house into a rental duplex. So then she'd have some passive income. That'd be about $5,000 a month in North End Tacoma. So I do the math first. It's like, okay, what do I want to do? And then what does it cost to do that? To be able to do that, I used to think it was $10,000 a month. Then I was rudely awakened and realized I have to make at least $25,000 a month to be able to buy $1 million condo, renovate the house to a duplex, and be able to actually live in today's economy.
Yeah.
So do the math, 25 grand a month, 300 grand a year. If you figure, okay, 6% rate of return, I need $5 million paying. Yeah, that's $5 million paying 6%.
Yep.
So you just do the math, and then you pick a market you want to buy in. And once you pick the market, you got to go meet with the players, because the quickest way to become the best owner in an area is to meet with the best owners and learn how they did it. So I'd pick a new market, meet with all the players. Maybe I got to move there. I'd probably move there if I had to start over.
Yeah.
And learn how everybody played the game and repeat it.
I think that last piece is the biggest piece. You have to start over. You set your goal for what you want to do, and that's first. Cody's was retiring his mom. Mine was retiring my wife. I hit that. Now my next goal is I want to move somewhere warmer. But you set the target. You set what you want to do, what it's going to cost you on a monthly basis. And then you go, okay, who has done exactly what I'm trying to do in the market I'm trying to do it in? There is no one alive who is a better mentor for you on how to do the next step than the person who's literally already done it where you're trying to do it. And so we would just be very fast on, okay, all I am focused on is meeting the players in the game I want to play.
And I think if I had to start over, it would probably take 12 months to get back to 40 apartments, 30 to 40. I think I could get there in a year. And within 2 years, get to 100. It's not like get rich quick, but can sure as heck do it quickly.
It's pretty fast, I'd say so. I mean, I'd be over the moon for something like that. I think that it's definitely, as I get bigger, you can see the exponential curve get closer and closer.
Yeah, as you progress, it gets easier to do the things that you've already done. Like it would take faster to get to where we're at doing it again, but oh my goodness,
and
I don't want to start over.
We could totally redo it. We would just have to take on more debt than we did to do what we did. Like the speed, you just borrow more money, figure out how to borrow more debt, and get a little bit more creative. And you could do 100 units in a year starting from ground zero. It's just you're going to borrow a lot more money than we did.
Right. Okay. Awesome. Well, thanks, guys. Where can the viewers find you guys? How can they connect or engage with your guys' content or anything you guys have, like your mentorship, stuff like that?
Cody and Christian Multifamily Strategies, our YouTube channel. That's where all the information lies. It's a good place to get general info. You can also message us on Instagram at Doing Cody Things or at Christian Osgood. Christian Osgood is a little less common of a name, so he actually got his title.
I did it. Cody Davis is apparently a New England Patriot.
Yeah. And if you want to learn how to play the game at the highest level, the multifamilystrategy.com. Check that out.
Yep. Course and mentorship there.
Awesome. All right, guys. Well, I'll put all that stuff in the description down below. And thank you guys for coming on, and I'll let you go on to the next adventure.
Appreciate that.
Yeah. Thanks for having us on. This is great.
Absolutely. See you guys.